Throughout history, countless people have vanished under circumstances that defy explanation. From experienced pilots and daring explorers to entire groups of travelers. These disappearances have left behind no clear answers, only speculation, theories, and unanswered questions. Some cases hint at foul play. Others suggest natural disasters or tragic accidents. While a few remain so unexplainable that they fuel paranormal and conspiracy theories. In this article, we explore 9 of the most baffling disappearances in history. Each one a haunting mystery that continues to captivate and intrigue investigators and the public alike. 1. The mysterious Dyatlov Pass Incident, an unsolved mystery of the Ural Mountains. One of the most perplexing and chilling mysteries of the 20th century is the Dyatlov Pass Incident, which took place in 1959 in the Soviet Union. 9 experienced hikers, led by Igor Dyatlov, set out on a skiing expedition in the Ural Mountains but never returned. Weeks later, their bodies were discovered under highly mysterious and gruesome circumstances. To this day, despite numerous investigations and theories, the true cause of their deaths remains a subject of speculation, ranging from natural disasters to military experiments and even paranormal activity. In late January 1959, Igor Dyatlov, a 23-year-old engineering student at the Ural Polytechnic Institute, organized a trekking trip with 9 other students and graduates. Their goal was to ski across the northern Ural Mountains, following a challenging but achievable route. The group consisted of 8 men and 2 women, all of whom were highly experienced in winter expeditions. The original group had 10 members, but one of them, Yuri Yudan, had to turn back due to illness after a few days. This decision likely saved his life, as the rest of the team would never return from their journey. The planned route would take him through the Ural Mountains, specifically toward Mount Otorten, meaning, "Don't go there," in the local Mansi language. While such names might seem ominous, the team had no reason to believe they were in any real danger. They expected to return home by February 12, 1959. However, when no word came from them, families grew concerned, and a search operation was launched. On February 20, 1959, a massive search effort was organized, including volunteers, students, military personnel, and police forces. It took several days, but eventually, on February 26, rescuers found the abandoned campsite on the slopes of Khorlat Sayal, a name that means "dead mountain" in the Mansi language. The tent was found abandoned and cut open from the inside. All personal belongings, shoes, and clothing were left behind. 9 sets of footprints, some barefoot or only in socks, led away from the tent. It appeared as if the hikers had suddenly fled their shelter in extreme panic. Despite the freezing temperatures of around -30 degrees Celsius, -22 degrees Fahrenheit. Following the trail of footprints, searchers soon discovered the first bodies, about 1.5 kilometers from the campsite. The remains of Yuri Doroshenko and Georgy Krivonishenko were found near a burned tree, both wearing only underwear. Signs of a small fire nearby suggested they had desperately tried to keep warm. Shortly after, the bodies of Dyatlov, Zinaida Kolmogorova, and Rustam Slobodin were found between the campsite and the tree, as if they had been trying to return to the tent but succumbed to the extreme cold. Rustam had a fractured skull, but it was not fatal. 2 months later, on May 4, 1959, the remaining 4 bodies were found in a ravine, buried under 4 meters of snow, further into the forest. Unlike the first group, these victims had suffered severe injuries. Nikolai Thibaut Brignolol had a crushed skull. Ludmila Dubinina and Semen Zolotaryov had multiple broken ribs and massive internal injuries. similar to the trauma from a high-speed car crash. Dubinina's tongue and eyes were missing, adding to the mystery. Shockingly, none of these bodies showed external wounds consistent with their internal injuries, leading investigators to believe that an immense force, rather than a human or animal attack, had caused their deaths. The Soviet government conducted an investigation, but no definitive cause of death was determined. The official report stated that the hikers had died due to an unknown compelling force. No external wounds were found on the bodies with the most severe injuries. High levels of radiation were detected on some of their clothes. Some corpses had an orange tan, and their hair had turned gray. Witnesses also reported unusual glowing orbs in the sky near the area around the time of the incident, fueling theories of military tests or UFO involvement. Given the bizarre circumstances, many theories have been proposed. One of the most widely accepted theories is that a small avalanche or a sudden snow slab forced the hikers to flee their tent. However, there were no signs of a large avalanche in the area, and experienced hikers like Dyatlov's team would have known how to handle such a situation. A rare phenomenon known as katabatic wind may have caused violent winds and freezing temperatures, forcing the hikers to abandon their shelter in a state of panic. However, this does not explain the severe internal injuries. Some believe the group may have accidentally wandered into a Soviet military testing zone, where secret weapons or parachute mines were being tested. The high levels of radiation found on some clothing and reports of bright orbs in the sky support this theory. A less scientific theory suggests that a yeti or large predator might have attacked the group. However, there were no signs of claw marks or animal bites on the bodies. Some theorists believe the glowing orbs seen in the area were UFOs and that the hikers might have been victims of extraterrestrial forces. However, this remains highly speculative. Some initial theories suggested that the local Mansi people might have attacked the hikers for trespassing on sacred land. However, no signs of a struggle or violent encounter were found. In 2019, Russian authorities reopened the case and concluded that the most likely cause was an avalanche or strong winds, forcing the hikers to flee. However, many experts remain unconvinced, as key pieces of evidence still do not fit this explanation. The Dyatlov Pass incident has inspired countless books, documentaries, and conspiracy theories. The location itself has since been renamed Dyatlov Pass, in memory of Igor Dyatlov and his team. Despite over 6 decades of speculation, we still do not have a definitive answer to what happened on that fateful night. The mystery of Dyatlov Pass remains one of the greatest unsolved cases in modern history. The Dyatlov Pass incident is a chilling reminder of how the natural world, or something beyond our understanding, can turn even the most experienced adventurers into victims of an unexplained force. Whether it was an avalanche, military tests, or something supernatural, the truth about what happened to Igor Dyatlov and his team may never be fully known. But the mystery continues to captivate researchers and conspiracy theorists alike, ensuring that the legend of Dyatlov Pass will never be forgotten. 2. The mysterious disappearance of Amelia Earhart, an unsolved aviation mystery. Amelia Earhart is one of the most iconic and inspiring figures in the history of aviation. As the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean, she broke barriers and set numerous records, proving that women could achieve great feats in a male-dominated field. However, her legacy is also tied to one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the 20th century, her disappearance in 1937 during an attempted flight around the world. Despite extensive search efforts and decades of speculation, the fate of Amelia Earhart and her navigator, Fred Noonan, remains unknown. In 1937, Amelia Earhart set out on an audacious mission, to become the first woman to fly around the world. Her journey would take her approximately 29.000 miles, 47.000 kilometers, across multiple continents, requiring precise planning and skilled navigation. Accompanying her was Fred Noonan, an experienced navigator who had extensive knowledge of celestial navigation. Earhart's aircraft for this journey was the Lockheed Electra 10E, a twin-engine plane that was custom-built for long-distance travel. Her plan was to fly from Oakland, California, making stops in South America, Africa, India, Southeast Asia, and the Pacific Islands before returning to the United States. By late June 1937, Earhart had successfully completed most of her journey. She landed in Lai, New Guinea, on June 29, with only 7.000 miles (11.000 kilometers) remaining before completing the historic flight. The next leg of the journey was a 2.556-mile (4.113 kilometers) flight to Howland Island, a tiny, uninhabited island in the Pacific, where the U.S. Coast Guard ship USS Itasca was stationed to assist with radio communications and navigation. On the morning of July 2, 1937, Earhart and Noonan took off from Lai. It was supposed to be a challenging but manageable flight, relying on precise radio signals and navigation to find the small island in the vast Pacific Ocean. However, something went terribly wrong. During the flight, radio communication between Earhart and USS Itasca became increasingly erratic. Earhart's transmissions indicated that she was struggling to locate Howland Island. One of her last known messages, received at 7:42 a.m. GMT, was, "We must be on you, but cannot see you, gas is running low." At 8:43 a.m., her final transmission was received, reporting unclear coordinates and a rapidly depleting fuel supply. After that, all contact was lost. Earhart, Noonan, and their plane vanished without a trace. The disappearance of Amelia Earhart prompted the largest and most expensive search operation in U.S. history at the time. Over 66 aircraft and 9 naval ships scoured 250.000 square miles, 647.000 square kilometers, of ocean in search of the missing plane. Despite extensive efforts, no wreckage or conclusive evidence was ever found. After 2 weeks of unsuccessful searching, the official operation was called off on July 19, 1937. Earhart and Noonan were declared legally dead on January 5, 1939. Over the decades, numerous theories have emerged to explain what happened to Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan. Some of these theories are based on scientific research, while others remain controversial and speculative. The most widely accepted theory is that Earhart's plane ran out of fuel and crashed into the Pacific Ocean near Howland Island. Given that the waters in the region are over 18.000 feet (5.500 meters) deep, finding the wreckage would be extremely difficult. This theory suggests that Earhart and Noonan died upon impact or soon after, with their aircraft sinking to the ocean floor. One of the most compelling alternative theories suggests that Earhart and Noonan may have survived the crash and landed on Nikumaroro, formerly Gardner Island, about 350 miles (560 kilometers) southeast of Howland Island. Some supporting evidence includes a fragment of aircraft aluminium found on the island in the 1940s, believed to match Earhart's plane, a skeleton of an unknown person, discovered in 1940 but later lost, glass bottles, a woman's shoe, and U.S. Navy artifacts found by researchers. This theory suggests that Earhart and Noonan survived for weeks or months as castaways before eventually dying from starvation or exposure. Another theory claims that Earhart and Noonan were captured by the Japanese military after crash landing in the Marshall Islands, which were under Japanese control at the time. Some supporters of this theory believe Earhart was imprisoned on Saipan and later executed as a spy. Some islanders reported seeing a white woman pilot in Japanese custody. A grainy photograph surfaced, allegedly showing Earhart and Noonan on a dock in the Marshall Islands. However, no solid evidence has been found to confirm this theory. A more extreme theory suggests that Earhart was on a secret mission for the U.S. government to spy on Japanese military activity in the Pacific. According to this theory, the U.S. faked her disappearance and brought her back under a new identity. Some believe Earhart later lived in the U.S. as Irene Bolam, a New Jersey woman. This theory has been widely debunked, but it continues to attract conspiracy theorists. As with many high-profile disappearances, some believe Earhart and Noonan were abducted by aliens. This theory is purely speculative and lacks any factual evidence. Even though her disappearance remains a mystery, Amelia Earhart's impact on aviation and women's rights is undeniable. She was a trailblazer who proved that women could achieve great things in fields traditionally dominated by men. She founded the 99s, an organization for female pilots that continues to inspire women in aviation. Numerous books, documentaries, and films have been made about her life and disappearance. In 1965, she was honored in the National Aviation Hall of Fame. Airports, streets, and even a crater on the Moon have been named after her. To this day, search efforts continue. In recent years, modern expeditions using sonar technology have explored the ocean floor near Howland Island, hoping to locate the wreckage of Earhart's Lockheed Electra. The disappearance of Amelia Earhart remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in aviation history. Whether she crashed into the ocean, survived as a castaway, or was captured, her fate continues to intrigue researchers and historians. Regardless of what truly happened, Amelia Earhart's fearless spirit, courage, and determination continue to inspire generations of explorers, aviators, and dreamers worldwide. Her legacy lives on, not just as a pioneer in aviation but as a symbol of adventure, resilience, and the relentless pursuit of dreams. 3. The story of the Mary Celeste, a maritime mystery that defies explanation. The disappearance of the crew of the Mary Celeste remains one of the most baffling maritime mysteries in history. Discovered adrift in the Atlantic Ocean in 1872. This merchant ship was found completely intact but mysteriously abandoned, with no trace of its crew, no signs of struggle, no indications of foul play, and no definitive evidence of what happened have ever surfaced. To this day, the mystery of the Mary Celeste continues to captivate historians, researchers, and mystery enthusiasts alike. The Mary Celeste was a 282-ton brigantine built in 1861 in Nova Scotia, Canada. Originally named Amazon, the ship had an unlucky beginning, experiencing multiple mishaps during its early voyages, including a collision and a fire. After being sold and repaired multiple times, the vessel was renamed Mary Celeste in 1869 and placed under the command of Captain Benjamin Briggs. Briggs was an experienced and well-respected seaman. In 1872, he prepared the Mary Celeste for a transatlantic voyage, transporting a cargo of 1.701 barrels of industrial alcohol from New York City to Genoa, Italy. On board were 10 people, Captain Briggs, his wife Sarah, their 2-year-old daughter Sophia, and 7 crew members. The voyage began on November 7, 1872, when the Mary Celeste set sail from New York. The ship was sturdy, well stocked, and had no known issues before departure. However, It would never reach its intended destination. On December 4, 1872, a British vessel, Dei Gratia, was sailing through the Atlantic Ocean, about 400 miles (640 kilometers) east of the Azores Islands, when its crew spotted the Mary Celeste drifting aimlessly. Initially, the captain of the Dei Gratia, David Morehouse, thought the ship might be in distress. When Morehouse and his crew approached, they noticed something unusual. The Mary Celeste showed no signs of damage. But no one was responding to their calls. A boarding party was sent to investigate, and what they found was deeply unsettling. Upon entering the Mary Celeste, the crew of the Dei Gratia found no sign of any crew members. The ship was completely abandoned. The ship was still seaworthy, with its sails partially set and no significant damage to the hull. All personal belongings, documents, and valuables remained untouched, suggesting the crew had not left due to piracy or mutiny. The ship's cargo, barrels of industrial alcohol, was mostly intact, except for 9 barrels that were empty. The lifeboat was missing, indicating that the crew may have abandoned ship voluntarily. The last entry in the ship's logbook was dated November 25, 1872, 9 days before the ship was discovered. No signs of struggle, foul play, or fire were present. The galley had food prepared, and meals were half-eaten. As if the crew had left suddenly. These eerie details painted a picture of an abrupt and unexplained departure, but without a clear reason for why an experienced crew would abandon a perfectly functional vessel. With no definitive evidence, many theories have emerged over the years to explain the disappearance of the crew of the Mary Celeste. One of the most widely accepted theories is that alcohol vapors from the cargo may have leaked, creating a fear of explosion. If Captain Briggs and his crew suspected an imminent fire or explosion, they might have evacuated temporarily in the lifeboat, hoping to return after the danger subsided. However, if the weather worsened or they were unable to navigate back, they could have been lost at sea. Some believe that a rogue wave or a waterspout, a tornado over water, may have hit the ship, causing a sudden panic. The crew could have thought the ship was sinking and abandoned it prematurely. However, the Mary Celeste remained afloat, meaning this theory does not fully explain why they never returned. At first, some suspected mutiny, with the crew rebelling against Captain Briggs. However, this theory lacks evidence, as the ship was found in perfect condition, with all valuables intact. If there had been mutineers, they would have likely taken money or supplies. Another possibility is that the ship was attacked by pirates. But again, this does not explain why nothing valuable was taken. Over time, supernatural explanations have also emerged. Some believe the Mary Celeste was abandoned due to paranormal forces, or that the ship was a victim of the Bermuda Triangle, even though it was far from that area. These theories are highly speculative but continue to fuel popular imagination. A more bizarre idea suggests that a giant squid or sea monster attacked the crew, pulling them into the ocean. While there are accounts of large cephalopods in deep waters, no physical evidence supports this claim. Another theory suggests that the owners of the Mary Celeste orchestrated a fraud by convincing the crew to abandon ship and later claiming insurance money. However, no financial evidence has ever proven this to be true. After the Dei Gratia crew found the Mary Celeste, they sailed it to Gibraltar, where an investigation was conducted. However, authorities found no signs of foul play and were unable to determine what had happened. The Mary Celeste was later refitted and put back into service. However, it was considered cursed, as no crew wanted to sail on it. Eventually, the ship met a tragic fate. Its final owner, in 1885, deliberately wrecked the vessel off the coast of Haiti in an attempt to commit insurance fraud. The story of the Mary Celeste has fascinated people for over 150 years. It has been featured in numerous books, films, and television documentaries. The mystery remains unsolved, with no definitive answers to what happened to the crew on that fateful voyage. In 1884, Arthur Conan Doyle, the creator of Sherlock Holmes, wrote a fictionalized story based on the Mary Celeste, which popularized the mystery even further. To this day, the Mary Celeste remains one of the greatest unsolved maritime mysteries, a chilling reminder of the unknown forces that can change the fate of even the most experienced sailors. The Mary Celeste stands as a ghost ship of legend, with no definitive answers as to why its crew disappeared. Despite numerous investigations and theories, the fate of Captain Briggs, his family, and his crew remains unknown. Was it a freak accident, an unforeseen natural disaster, or something more sinister? We may never know. Yet, the mystery of the Mary Celeste continues to intrigue, mystify, and inspire countless researchers and storytellers, ensuring that its legend will never be forgotten. 3.4. The mysterious disappearance of Ben McDaniel, a deep-diving enigma. The disappearance of Ben McDaniel remains one of the most perplexing and chilling cases in the world of cave diving. On August 18, 2010, Ben, an experienced diver, entered an underwater cave at Vortex Spring, Florida, and was never seen again. Despite extensive search efforts, no trace of him, no body, no diving equipment, has ever been found. The case has baffled experts and investigators, sparking numerous theories, from a tragic accident to a carefully orchestrated disappearance. Ben McDaniel was 30 years old at the time of his disappearance. Originally from Collierville, Tennessee, he was an avid scuba diver with a passion for exploring underwater caves. However, Ben's life had not been without hardship. In the years leading up to his disappearance, he had suffered personal and financial struggles, including a failed business that left him in significant debt. He was deeply affected by the death of his younger brother, Paul, who passed away due to a stroke at just 22 years old. Seeking a fresh start, Ben moved to Santa Rosa Beach, Florida, and began diving regularly at Vortex Spring, a popular site for cave divers. Though he was an experienced open-water diver, Ben was not certified for cave diving. Despite this, he frequently ventured into the dangerous underwater caves, which were considered extremely hazardous, even for trained professionals. On the evening of August 18, 2010, Ben was seen preparing for a solo dive at Vortex Spring. Witnesses, including Eduardo Tarrin, a professional diver, recalled seeing Ben at the dive site that day. Around 7:30 p.m., Ben entered the water alone, carrying his scuba gear, lights, and dive slate. He was last seen descending into the cave system, past the designated limits where untrained divers were prohibited. He never resurfaced. The next morning, when his pickup truck was found parked near the dive site, concern grew. It contained his wallet, phone, and keys, suggesting that he had never left the area. His dog was still waiting in his vehicle, a heartbreaking sign that he had planned to return. At this point, search and rescue efforts began. When Ben failed to return, authorities and expert divers launched an extensive search of the cave system. No body or equipment. Despite over 16 divers searching 1.600 feet (487 meters) into the cave, not a single trace of Ben, no body, no gear, no tanks, was found. His slate contained a disturbing message. A dive slate, a waterproof writing board used by divers, was found deep inside the cave, containing a cryptic message that simply read, "Help me. Narrow passages too small for a body." Many of the unexplored tight crevices were too small for a fully equipped diver to pass through, making it unlikely that Ben had gotten stuck without leaving any trace. The possibility of a hidden air pocket. Some divers speculated that Ben could have found an air pocket and was waiting for rescue. However, no such pocket was found. After weeks of searching, with no conclusive evidence, the official dive operation was called off. With no body and no clear explanation, numerous theories emerged regarding what could have happened to Ben McDaniel. One theory is that Ben drowned deep within the cave. His body lodged in an undiscovered crevice. Some experts believe his body may still be trapped in a narrow, unsearchable passage. However, no signs of his air tanks, mask, or wetsuit have ever been recovered. Another controversial theory suggests that Ben staged his own disappearance to escape his troubled life. He had significant financial and personal struggles, including business failures and family grief. If he had planned an escape, he could have left the area before authorities arrived. Some believe he left through an unknown exit or had outside help. However, his family strongly denies this theory, insisting he would never abandon his loved ones. Some suspect that Ben may have met with foul play, possibly involving people at the dive site. Some Vortex Spring employees allegedly had criminal backgrounds. Eduardo Taran, the last person to see Ben, refused a polygraph test and acted suspiciously. There were claims that some locals disliked Ben for breaking diving rules and potentially endangering others. However, no physical evidence of murder was ever found. Although rare, some have suggested that Ben's body may have been dragged away by a large alligator after he resurfaced. However, this theory is unlikely, as alligators rarely venture into deep cave waters. Additionally, his scuba gear would have been found floating if this had occurred. Some initially believed that Ben may have survived for a time in an air pocket, hoping for rescue. This theory was ruled out as no air pockets were found deep inside the cave. Ben's parents, Shelby and Patty McDaniel, refused to give up hope. Ben's parents, Shelby and Patty McDaniel, refused to give up hope. They offered a $30 reward for information leading to Ben's discovery. Unfortunately, no further evidence was found. In 2012, they built a memorial plaque at Vortex Spring, honoring Ben's adventurous spirit. Despite years of searching, no answers have ever emerged. No official cause of death has been determined. No evidence suggests foul play. But no body has ever been recovered. Some believe Ben's body is still in the cave, trapped beyond reach. Others think he escaped and started a new life elsewhere. The disappearance of Ben McDaniel remains one of the greatest unsolved cases in diving history. His story has become a cautionary tale about the dangers of cave diving, a sport that even the most experienced divers approach with extreme caution. To this day, Vortex Spring remains a popular but haunted site, with divers and visitors still wondering what truly happened to Ben. Did he drown in the dark labyrinth of the cave? Did he escape and vanish into the world? Or did something more sinister happen? Until definitive evidence emerges, the mystery of Ben McDaniel's disappearance will continue to haunt the waters of Vortex Spring forever. 5. The mysterious disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370. The disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 is one of the most perplexing aviation mysteries in modern history. On March 8, 2014, a Boeing 777-200ER carrying 239 passengers and crew vanished from radar screens while en route from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, to Beijing, China. Despite one of the largest search operations ever conducted, the aircraft was never fully recovered, and the exact cause of its disappearance remains unknown. Over the years, many theories have emerged, ranging from mechanical failure to deliberate sabotage. Yet none have provided definitive answers. On March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 took off from Kuala Lumpur International Airport at 12:41 am local time. The flight was expected to last about 6 hours, reaching Beijing at 6:30 am. The aircraft, a Boeing 777-200ER, was in excellent condition, and Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, a highly experienced pilot with over 18,000 flight hours, was in command. His co-pilot, First Officer Farik Abdul Hamid, was also experienced, with over 2.700 hours of flight time. 1:01 am, the aircraft reached cruising altitude of 35.000 feet, 10.670 meters. 1:07 am, the final automated data reporting system (ACARS) transmission was sent, showing no signs of distress or malfunction. 1:19 am, last verbal communication from the cockpit. Malaysian Air Traffic Control, Malaysia 370. Contact Ho Chi Minh ATC, Vietnam, next. Captain Zahari, good night. Malaysia 370. 1:21 am, the aircraft's transponder was turned off, cutting communication with air traffic control. 1:22 to 1:30 am, the aircraft deviated from its planned course, turning westward over the South China Sea, back across the Malay Peninsula toward the Andaman Sea. 2:25 am, a final ping was received from the aircraft via satellite communication before it entered a radio silence. At this point, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 had completely disappeared from radar, and no distress signals were ever sent. When MH370 failed to check in with Vietnamese air traffic control, authorities initially assumed technical difficulties. However, when the aircraft did not land at Beijing Capital International Airport at 6:30 am, a full-scale search and rescue operation was launched. March 8, 2014, Malaysian authorities and international teams began searching the South China Sea, assuming the plane crashed along its original flight path. March 9, 2014, radar data revealed the plane turned west and continued flying for 7 hours before disappearing completely. The search zone was expanded. March 15, 2014, new satellite data indicated MH370 veered south into the Indian Ocean instead of continuing toward Beijing. This information shifted the search area to the southern Indian Ocean, one of the most remote regions on Earth. Since the aircraft was never fully recovered, numerous theories have emerged to explain what happened to Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370. Some believe MH370 suffered a sudden mechanical failure, such as cabin depressurization, causing the pilots and passengers to lose consciousness from hypoxia, electrical failure, disabling communication systems, fire or explosion, leading to the plane flying uncontrollably until it ran out of fuel. However, Boeing 777s have redundant systems, making complete failure unlikely without pilot intervention. One of the most controversial theories suggests Captain Zahari deliberately crashed the plane in an act of murder-suicide. Supporting evidence includes the flight's deliberate course change toward the Indian Ocean. Zahari had flight simulations on his home computer, showing a route similar to MH370's final trajectory. Reports of personal struggles in the pilot's life, including political dissatisfaction and possible depression. However, there is no clear motive, and many aviation experts and Zahari's family deny this theory. Some suspect terrorists or rogue individuals took control of the aircraft. A hijacker may have disabled the transponder and deliberately rerouted the plane. Passengers with fake passports were on board. But investigations found no links to terrorism. This theory lacks solid supporting evidence. Some conspiracy theorists claim the U.S. military shot down MH370 because the plane was mistaken for a threat. It flew too close to a secret U.S. base, Diego Garcia. However, there is no evidence to support this claim. Given modern aviation technology, some believe hackers remotely took control of MH370's navigation systems. A sophisticated cyber attack could have altered flight controls. However, aviation experts say this level of hacking is nearly impossible on a Boeing 777. Some speculate MH370 was abducted by extraterrestrials or entered a different dimension. However, there is no scientific evidence to support this claim. For years, no physical evidence of MH370 was found, until 2015. When debris started washing up along the coast of Africa and Indian Ocean islands. July 2015, a wing fragment, flaperon, was found on Reunion Island. Confirming that MH370 crashed into the Indian Ocean. 2016 to 2018, more debris, including an engine cowling and seat cushions, was discovered in Madagascar, Tanzania, and Mozambique. These findings support the theory that the plane ran out of fuel and crashed into the ocean. In 2018, the Malaysian government released a 1.500-page report, concluding, MH370's final moments were likely due to human intervention. No distress calls were sent, suggesting a deliberate act. The exact cause remains unknown due to lack of evidence. The official search was suspended in 2018. But private companies continue to explore the ocean floor. The disappearance of MH370 changed the aviation industry. New rules require real-time tracking of commercial flights. Airlines must have better safety and security measures. Families of victims continue to demand answers and further searches. Despite the tragedy, MH370 remains a symbol of unanswered questions, keeping the world captivated by its mystery. The disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in aviation history. Was it mechanical failure, a hijacking, or a deliberate act? Why did it deviate from its original flight path? Will we ever find the wreckage or the black box? Until the aircraft is fully recovered, the fate of MH370 and its 239 passengers will remain one of the most haunting mysteries of our time. 6. The mysterious disappearance of Paula Jean Welden. The disappearance of Paula Jean Welden is one of the most baffling missing person cases in American history. In 1946, the 18-year-old college student vanished without a trace while hiking on Vermont's Long Trail, leaving behind no clues about her fate. Her case remains unsolved, with various theories suggesting everything from foul play to voluntary disappearance, and even supernatural involvement. Despite widespread investigations and nationwide publicity, no evidence of Paula's whereabouts has ever been found. Paula Jean Welden was born on October 19, 1928, in Stamford, Connecticut. She was the eldest of 4 daughters in a well-to-do family. At the time of her disappearance, Paula was an 18-year-old sophomore at Bennington College, a private liberal arts school in Vermont. She was known to be bright, ambitious, and independent. She had a passion for hiking and the outdoors, often taking solitary nature walks. Despite her generally positive demeanor, she had recently been feeling stressed due to academic pressures and tension with her parents. On the day she disappeared, there were no signs of anything unusual, making her sudden vanishing even more perplexing. On Sunday, December 1, 1946, Paula told her college roommates that she planned to go for a hike on the Long Trail, a popular hiking route that stretches through Vermont's Green Mountains. She left campus around 2:45 p.m., dressed in a red coat, jeans, and sneakers, inadequate for the cold weather. Witnesses saw her walking along Route 67A toward the Long Trail entrance near Glastonbury Mountain. Several hitchhikers and drivers later reported seeing a young woman matching Paula's description walking alone. The last confirmed sighting was from an elderly couple who saw her on the Long Trail around 4 p.m. They noted that she was walking confidently and did not appear lost or distressed. However, Paula never returned to campus that evening. When Paula failed to return to her dormitory that night, her roommates assumed she had stayed out late. However, when she missed classes the next morning, concern grew. By Monday evening, December 2, the Bennington College administration reported her missing, and a massive search operation began. Hundreds of volunteers, including students, police officers, and local residents, scoured the Long Trail and surrounding areas. Bloodhounds were used, but they could not pick up her scent. Helicopters and aircraft were deployed to scan the dense forests and mountains. A reward was offered, but no credible leads emerged. Despite an intensive search lasting several weeks, no clothing, footprints, or personal items were ever discovered. With no concrete evidence, numerous theories have been proposed to explain what might have happened to Paula Jean Welden. One of the most plausible theories is that Paula accidentally wandered off the trail, became lost, and succumbed to the elements. She was not properly dressed for the cold weather, and temperatures dropped below freezing that night. However, search teams never found a body or any remains, making this theory inconclusive. Some believe that Paula may have been kidnapped or murdered. A suspicious witness named Fred Gadet, a local man with a violent history, allegedly made incriminating remarks about knowing what happened to Paula. However, there was no physical evidence to link him to her disappearance. No signs of struggle or blood were ever found. Another theory is that Paula intentionally disappeared. She had been experiencing personal struggles, including family tensions and academic stress. Some suggested she may have boarded a bus or train and left Vermont voluntarily. However, she had no extra clothes, no money, and no known plans to leave. Paula's case is one of many disappearances in the so-called Bennington Triangle, a region in Vermont infamous for mysterious vanishings. Between 1945 and 1950, at least 5 people disappeared in the area. Some paranormal enthusiasts believe supernatural forces or a time vortex could be involved. Others suggest she fell into an abandoned mine shaft, though no mine shafts were found near the trail. Despite extensive investigations, Paula's case remains cold. Her father, Archibald Welden, never stopped searching, even hiring private detectives. In 1950, Vermont established a state police force, largely due to public outcry over the mishandling of Paula's case. To this day, Paula Jean Welden's disappearance remains one of the most famous missing persons cases in the U.S. Paula's case left a lasting impact. It led to the creation of the Vermont State Police in 1947. Hiking safety regulations were improved in response to her disappearance. The story of Paula remains one of the most studied cold cases in American history. Despite decades of speculation, no definitive answer exists regarding what happened to Paula Jean Welden. Did she get lost and succumb to the elements? Was she murdered and her body hidden? Or did she choose to disappear, leaving behind her old life? Until new evidence emerges, the mystery of Paula Jean Welden will continue to haunt historians, investigators, and the people of Vermont. 7. The mysterious disappearance of Richard Halliburton, the vanished adventurer. Richard Halliburton was one of the most famous travel writers, explorers, and adventurers of the early 20th century. Known for his daring exploits and charismatic storytelling, he traveled the world and inspired countless readers with his thrilling adventures. However, in March 1939, Halliburton embarked on what would become his final journey, a bold attempt to cross the Pacific Ocean in a Chinese junk ship. Somewhere between Hong Kong and San Francisco, he and his crew vanished without a trace, leaving behind one of the most enduring mysteries in maritime history. Richard Halliburton was born on January 9, 1900, in Brownsville, Tennessee, USA. From an early age, he exhibited a passion for adventure, rejecting a conventional life in favor of global exploration. He graduated from Princeton University in 1921. Instead of pursuing a traditional career, he traveled the world and wrote extensively about his experiences. He gained fame and fortune through books such as The Royal Road to Romance, 1925, The Glorious Adventure, 1927, and New Worlds to Conquer, 1929. His adventurous feats included swimming the Panama Canal from end to end, climbing the Matterhorn in Switzerland, riding an elephant over the Alps, mimicking Hannibal's journey, sneaking into the Taj Mahal at night to sleep inside, flying a private plane around the world in the 1930s. By the late 1930s, Halliburton sought his most daring adventure yet, sailing across the Pacific Ocean in a Chinese junk ship. In 1938, Halliburton and his business partner Paul Mooney commissioned the construction of a Chinese junk ship named Sea Dragon, translated from the Chinese name Fei Long, meaning flying dragon. The ship was modeled after ancient Chinese trading vessels, designed for both beauty and seaworthiness. Halliburton planned to sail from Hong Kong to San Francisco, covering nearly 6.000 miles (9.700 kilometers) across the vast Pacific Ocean. The journey was intended to celebrate the 1939 Golden Gate International Exposition in San Francisco. In early 1939, Halliburton and his 14-man crew, which included American and Chinese sailors, set sail from Hong Kong on what was supposed to be a historic and triumphant voyage. The Sea Dragon set sail from Hong Kong in February 1939, moving slowly but steadily across the Pacific. However, as the journey progressed, the vessel faced strong storms and rough seas. The last communication. On March 23, 1939, Halliburton sent a final radio message from the Sea Dragon, stating, "Southerly gales, rain squalls, leaky, wet, but everything looks hopeful." Shortly after, radio contact was lost, and the Sea Dragon was never heard from again. As days passed with no further messages, concern grew. By mid-April 1939, search efforts began, involving the U.S. Navy, which sent out reconnaissance aircraft, merchant ships in the Pacific that were asked to look for debris, radio operators attempting to detect any distress signals. Despite an extensive search, no wreckage, bodies, or remnants of the Sea Dragon were ever discovered. The ship and all 15 men aboard simply vanished. On October 5, 1939, the U.S. government officially declared Richard Halliburton dead. The most widely accepted theory is that the Sea Dragon was caught in a violent storm and sank. The final message mentioned rough weather and a leaky ship. The vessel, though beautifully crafted, may not have been sturdy enough for the Pacific Ocean. Some believe that the ship may have suffered a structural failure, leading to its demise. Traditional Chinese junks were not built for trans-Pacific voyages. The ship was reported to have been overloaded with supplies. A minor leak could have worsened, ultimately sinking the ship, given the relatively small crew and the challenges of navigating the open ocean. Some experts believe navigation errors may have led the ship off course. The crew may have suffered from exhaustion, malnutrition, or sickness. A more controversial theory suggests that the Sea Dragon may have been attacked. The Pacific region in 1939 was increasingly dangerous due to World War II tensions. Some believe the vessel could have been mistaken for a spy ship and destroyed. However, no evidence of an attack or wreckage was ever found. One outlandish theory suggests that Halliburton orchestrated his own disappearance to escape fame or financial troubles. However, he had no known financial issues, and his adventurous spirit made it unlikely he would abandon his career. This theory is considered highly improbable. Despite his tragic disappearance, Richard Halliburton's influence on travel writing and exploration remains immense. He inspired a generation of travelers, proving that adventure was accessible to anyone with passion and courage. His books remain widely read, influencing authors and explorers worldwide. Several schools, buildings, and landmarks have been named in his honor. His life story continues to inspire films, documentaries, and research projects. The vanishing of the Sea Dragon remains one of history's great maritime enigmas, ensuring that Halliburton's legend will never be forgotten. Richard Halliburton lived fearlessly, pursuing adventure where others feared to go. His tragic disappearance in 1939 only deepened his legend. Did he underestimate the dangers of the Pacific? Was he swept away by a powerful storm? Or does the Sea Dragon still rest undiscovered in the depths of the ocean? Though his fate remains unknown, Richard Halliburton's legacy as one of history's greatest adventurers endures, ensuring that his spirit of exploration lives on. 8. The mysterious disappearance of Michael Rockefeller, an unsolved mystery. Michael Rockefeller's disappearance in 1961 remains one of the most intriguing and debated missing person cases in modern history. As the son of New York Governor Nelson Rockefeller and heir to one of America's wealthiest families, his vanishing in the remote jungles of New Guinea sparked an international search and gave rise to a multitude of theories. Did he drown while trying to swim to shore? Or did he fall victim to cannibalistic tribes? Was he captured and assimilated into an indigenous community? Or did he meet a different fate entirely? More than 6 decades later, his fate remains one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. Michael Clark Rockefeller was born on May 18, 1938, into the Rockefeller dynasty, one of the wealthiest and most powerful families in American history. He was the youngest son of Nelson Rockefeller, the governor of New York and future vice president of the United States. Unlike many heirs to great fortunes, Michael was not content with a life of privilege. He was intensely curious, artistic, and adventurous. After graduating from Harvard University in 1960, he developed a deep fascination with indigenous art and cultures, leading him to New Guinea, where he worked on an anthropological expedition. Michael's primary interest was the Asmat people, an indigenous tribe known for their wood carvings, spiritual beliefs, and once practiced cannibalistic traditions. His love for adventure and art eventually led him on a dangerous journey into one of the most remote regions of the world. In November 1961, Michael Rockefeller was on an expedition along the southern coast of Dutch New Guinea, now Papua, Indonesia. His goal was to collect indigenous artifacts for New York's Museum of Primitive Art, founded by his father. On November 17, 1961, Michael, along with Dutch anthropologist René Wassing and 2 local guides, was traveling along the Arafura Sea in a small, unstable catamaran, about 3 miles (4.8 kilometers) from shore. A large wave capsized their boat. The 2 local guides swam to shore for help, leaving Michael and Wassing stranded, clinging to the overturned boat. After several hours adrift, Michael made a fateful decision. Believing he could swim to shore, he reportedly said his final words to Wassing, "I think I can make it." He then removed his pants to help him float and started swimming toward the distant coastline. Michael Rockefeller was never seen again. After 2 days adrift, Renee Wassing was rescued, but by then, Michael had already vanished. An extensive search operation was immediately launched. The Dutch government, U.S. Navy, and Rockefeller family conducted one of the largest search efforts in the region's history. Planes, helicopters, and boats scoured the coastline and surrounding waters. A $250 reward, a huge sum at the time, was offered for information about his whereabouts. However, no trace of Michael Rockefeller was ever found. Given the mystery surrounding his vanishing, several theories have emerged over the decades. The official Dutch investigation concluded that Michael likely drowned before reaching shore. Strong currents, exhaustion, or sharks could have played a role. However, no body, clothing, or remains were ever found, leading many to question this conclusion. One of the most debated theories is that Michael reached shore but was killed by the Asmat people. At the time, some Asmat villages still practiced cannibalism and headhunting. In 1958, Dutch soldiers had killed several Asmat warriors in a conflict. Some believe that the tribe may have killed Michael as an act of revenge against the Dutch. Several witnesses and local rumors claim that Michael was captured, killed, and possibly eaten in a tribal ritual. In 1969, a journalist named Milt Macklin traveled to New Guinea to investigate. He spoke with missionaries and locals who claimed that Michael had been killed by the Asmat. But no solid proof was found. Another theory suggests that Michael was not killed but assimilated into the tribe. Some reports claim that a white man resembling Michael was seen living among the Asmat years later. In 2014, journalist Carl Hoffman wrote a book, Savage Harvest, claiming that Dutch officials covered up evidence that Michael had been killed by the Asmat. However, there is no photographic or DNA evidence to confirm this theory. Some conspiracy theories suggest that the Dutch government or the US covered up the truth about Michael's fate. Some say Dutch authorities did not want to acknowledge that cannibalism still existed in the region. Others believe that Michael was secretly rescued and given a new identity. However, there is no hard evidence to support this claim. Nelson Rockefeller never spoke publicly about his son's disappearance. Michael's death was officially declared in 1964. The Rockefeller family continued to fund art collections and anthropology projects in Michael's honor. Michael's disappearance brought global attention to the Asmat people. His expedition helped preserve and document Asmat art, which is now displayed in museums worldwide. His story has been the subject of books, documentaries, and movies. Carl Hoffman's 2014 book Savage Harvest claims to have uncovered evidence that Michael was killed by the Asmat. But the theory remains unproven. Michael Rockefeller's disappearance remains one of the greatest unsolved cases of the 20th century. Did he drown, exhausted and lost at sea? Did he reach shore, only to be killed by the Asmat? Could he have lived among the tribe, abandoning his old life? Without concrete evidence, the fate of Michael Rockefeller may never be fully known. However, his legacy as an adventurer, anthropologist, and cultural explorer continues to inspire curiosity and debate, ensuring that his story will never be forgotten. 9. The mysterious disappearance of Frederick Valentich, a UFO encounter or aviation tragedy. The disappearance of Frederick Valentich on October 21, 1978, remains one of the most puzzling cases in aviation history. The 20-year-old Australian pilot vanished while flying a Cessna 182L aircraft over the Bass Strait. a notoriously treacherous body of water between Victoria, Australia, and Tasmania, moments before his plane disappeared. He reported an unidentified flying object, UFO, hovering above him. His final words, recorded by air traffic control, were, "It's not an aircraft." Despite extensive search efforts, neither his body nor his plane was ever found, leading to a multitude of theories ranging from mechanical failure to extraterrestrial abduction. Frederick Valentich was born on June 9, 1958, in Melbourne, Australia. He was passionate about aviation and had logged 150 hours of flying experience. He aspired to become a commercial pilot, though he had previously failed to join the Royal Australian Air Force (RAF) due to insufficient educational qualifications. Valentich had a strong interest in UFOs, often discussing them with family and friends. At the time of his disappearance, he held a Class 4 instrument rating, which allowed him to fly at night and in limited visibility conditions. On the evening of October 21, 1978, Valentich departed from Moorabbin Airport in Victoria at 6:19 p.m. Piloting a single-engine Cessna 182L. His flight was supposed to be a routine trip to King Island, located south of the Australian mainland in the Bass Strait. The flight distance was 235 kilometres (146 miles), and was expected to take 1 hour. Weather conditions were clear but with scattered clouds at around 5.000 feet (1.500 meters). He carried 4 life jackets but no passengers. At 7:06 p.m., while flying at 4.500 feet, Valentich contacted Melbourne Air Traffic Control (ATC) with a disturbing report. Valentich's conversation with Melbourne ATC lasted for 6 minutes, and during this time, he described an unidentified flying object (UFO) following him. 7:06 p.m., Valentich contacts ATC. Melbourne, this is Delta Sierra Juliet. Is there any known traffic below 5.000 feet? ATC response: no known traffic in your area. Valentich: I see a large aircraft below 5.000 feet. ATC: can you confirm the type of aircraft? Valentich: It's flying too fast. It has 4 bright lights, it's not an aircraft. 7:09 p.m., Valentich reports strange movement. It is hovering over me. It is not an aircraft. ATC asks Valentich to clarify his situation. He describes the object vanishing and reappearing, saying it seems to be playing games with him. 7:12 p.m., the last words. It is hovering and it's not an aircraft. 17 seconds of open microphone static. Radio contact was lost. Valentich and his plane were never seen again. After Valentich's disappearance, a massive air and sea search was conducted over Bass Strait, lasting 4 days. No wreckage, debris, or human remains were ever found. Authorities ruled out fuel exhaustion, as Valentich had enough for a 4-hour flight. No distress signal was sent before his disappearance. Witnesses later reported seeing a green light moving erratically in the sky around the same time Valentich vanished. With no conclusive evidence, the Australian Department of Transport declared the incident cause unknown, with no wreckage or solid evidence. Multiple theories have emerged over the years. One of the most popular theories is that Valentich was abducted by a UFO. Valentich himself believed in UFOs and had told friends he feared being taken by extraterrestrials. Witnesses reported seeing green lights moving strangely in the sky that night. Valentich's last words suggest an unusual craft hovering over him. However, there is no scientific proof of extraterrestrial involvement. A more conventional explanation is that Valentich became disoriented while flying over featureless waters, leading to illusions that made him think a UFO was present. Spatial disorientation, causing him to fly upside down without realizing it. His own plane's reflection in the water, which he may have mistaken for a UFO. If this theory is correct, he may have crashed into the ocean, where his plane sank. Some believe Valentich faked his disappearance for unknown reasons. He had poor flight performance records and may have feared failure. There were rumors he planned to fly somewhere else rather than King Island. However, this theory lacks solid evidence, and his family strongly denies it. Some suggest Valentich accidentally encountered a classified military test. Covert aircraft or missile tests could explain the unusual lights he reported. Some believe the Australian or US military may have covered up the incident. No official records support this claim. After Valentich's disappearance, more than 50 witnesses reported seeing a large green light moving erratically over Bass Strait, a shiny metallic disc hovering in the area. Some claim to see a small aircraft inside the UFO. These reports added fuel to the UFO theory, though skeptics argue they were unrelated coincidences. The case remains one of Australia's most famous UFO mysteries. It has been studied by aviation experts, UFO researchers, and government agencies. The Valentich case has inspired documentaries, books, and TV series about aviation mysteries and UFO encounters. His last transmission is one of the most chilling moments in aviation history. Decades later, no trace of Valentich or his plane has been found. His family continues to seek answers. The UFO theory remains a highly debated topic. Frederick Valentich's disappearance is one of the most unexplained aviation incidents in history. Did he crash due to pilot error? Was he taken by extraterrestrials? Did he witness a secret military aircraft? Without concrete evidence, the truth remains unknown. However, his final words and the eerie circumstances of his vanishing ensure that the mystery of Frederick Valentich will never be forgotten. The world is full of unexplained disappearances, leaving behind questions without answers and stories that continue to haunt us. While some cases may one day be solved, others remain shrouded in mystery, fueling speculation and theories for generations to come. Whether due to natural forces, human intervention, or something beyond our understanding, these disappearances remind us of how vast and unpredictable our world truly is. If you enjoyed this video and want to explore more intriguing mysteries, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring you more captivating stories from around the world. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next mystery.